Hello, everyone, and welcome to this month's tutorial where we'll be talking about how to build your product roadmap for 2023. It is wonderful to see so many of you here with us live, and I'm excited to introduce you to my teammates, Keith and Austin. You're welcome to join me on camera now. Hi. So Austin is a group manager of our product management team at AHA, and he'll be sharing a bunch of great insights with you all on how our own team approaches strategic planning here. And Keith is a senior product concierge manager who has a wealth of expertise coaching customers on how to work together using AHA software, and is also an instructor of our AHA Academy certification classes. So just a couple of housekeeping items before we dive in with these two. So please feel free to post any questions you think of as we go along here about what we're showing or discussing in the Zoom webinar Q&A. A few of us will be on hand there to answer them. And then go ahead and pop the word roadmap into the Q&A if you would like personalized help from our CS team with building your roadmap. And I believe that covers everything I had for introduction. So I'll let you go ahead and take it away, Austin and Keith.
Great, thanks, Rose. Like Rose mentioned, I'm Austin. I am on the product management team here at AHA. First of all, thank you all for joining us today. I know firsthand this is a busy time of year for all of you. You know, you're wrapping up your 2022 plans, but you're also starting to think ahead about what's coming next year. So again, thank you so much for taking the time to be here. It's an important topic because I know that all of you, just like me and my team, we all want to deliver what matters most to our customers. You want to be able to show what the team is focused on, and also how all that work links back to the company strategy. So ultimately, the work that we're doing here as we're working on planning is creating that alignment across the organization, that shared understanding of what you'll focus on as you head into the new year, help to keep everyone moving in the same direction, help to set proper expectations of what we're going to do, also what we're not going to do during the year, and also to help you stay grounded in strategy as things get busy and you get into the delivery mode. So again, important topics that we'll cover through each of those areas. You might be like us and use key markers during the year as starting points for your strategic road mapping. At AHA, for example, we plan in 6-month increments. We center those around our biannual company on-sites. In fact, we shared our plans for the first half of 2023 just last week when we were all together in San Diego. On that note, I'm curious, we're going to post a poll. I'd love to hear how what your cadence is for road mapping. Cool. See some responses coming in here. Looks like quarterly, maybe on a rolling cadence. I love that. It's definitely a great way to do it. Some every 6 months, like us. A lot maybe once a year. Really interesting to see. So regardless of if you're planning yearly, 6 months, quarterly, even on a rolling cadence, it's likely that the start of the year might be one of those markers. And so what that also means is that a lot of you are probably really deep into planning right now for 2023, which is why we thought now would be a good time to bring everybody together and share some best practices about how we approach this using AHA, and some tips and tricks on how to do it yourself. Most of you know that the roadmap is more than just a visual, right? There's a lot of deep thinking that goes into the roadmap, and it backs up that visual that you ultimately share. Keith, as he goes through this, is going to touch on these big areas here. So validating strategy, vetting ideas, confirming the value of those ideas, and then ultimately sharing that beautiful visual plan with others so that you can create that alignment that we were talking about earlier. So with that, I'll turn it over to you, Keith, to take us through these areas.
Thanks, Austin. I appreciate that. So as Austin mentioned, I'm going to be focused on building a roadmap, and I'm going to be focused on a roadmap for a product named Elite Running, which you can see in the upper left-hand corner here. So as we all know, a roadmap is a plan for delivering value in accordance with our business and product goals. As such, it's critically important that our planning begin by determining those goals. So let's begin by looking at our goals in AHA. So I'm going to go up to strategy, and we're going to go to goals. Now, in the left-hand side of the screen, we can add goals, of course, but we can also see our existing goals. And if we take a look at an existing goal, in this case, number 1 is social fitness running software, we can see our success metric, which in this case is to achieve a market share of 50% or greater. And we can see the time frame that we're looking to achieve this, that being the first half of 2023. Now, we all understand the importance of focus in regards to achieving our goals. As such, we suggest focusing on no more than 3 to 5 goals at a time. Now, I realize with all the possibilities available, narrowing this down can be really pretty challenging. I suggest using the chart on the right-hand side of the screen to help you prioritize which of those goals to focus on. You can tell this is based off of relative value and effort. So we can simply drag and drop those goals based on where we feel they best fit to determine where we may want to focus our efforts. Now, also, we suggest goals which last no longer than 12 months. Any longer, and it becomes a bit more challenging to show any real accomplishment despite all of the work being done. Now, if you have larger goals than that, as many do, I suggest you break them down into multiple goals. Now, once we have our goals in place, it's time to begin thinking about strategic initiatives. So let's take a look at that. If we go back up to strategy and we go to initiatives, we can see the initiatives that we have in place. Now, again, an initiative is where we're breaking down those goals into strategic themes. So think of initiatives as those larger bodies of work. So while goals represent an outcome, initiatives represent what we will do. Examples may be areas of improvement or new markets to explore, or in this case, we have one for rolling out a brand new partner portal. As with goals, we encourage you to enter a time frame for completion of each of these initiatives. That's really important. Also, as you're entering these initiatives, be sure you're linking these to relevant goals. This will become meaningful when we start to build roadmaps and reports where we want to show those linkages. Now, we've talked about the fact that our focus thus far has been related to a product called Elite Running. So our goals and our initiatives are focused at the product level. Oftentimes, though, strategy is a bit more complex than that. Let's take a look at my hierarchy for a little bit more detail on that. So in this case, I've got a company called Fredwin Software, okay? So at this level, my executives or C-suite may define goals and initiatives for the entire company. I then have a consumer division. So at the division level, I might have a VP who's creating goals and initiatives that support the company strategy. I then have product suites, adventure products and lifestyle products, where I may have directors who are creating goals and initiatives that support the VP strategy, and onward down to the product level. This is really important as we start to think about, again, that strategic alignment. Now, in order to make sure that we're establishing those linkages between our strategy at these various levels, be sure that you're using this roll up to workspace line field. This is where we're going to be able to link initiatives to parent initiatives or goals to parent goals to show those relationships. Now, A quick pro tip here. All right. We've talked about timeframes a couple of different times thus far. One of the key functions, though, that many aren't aware of when it comes to the time frame is that the time frame also serves an important function as it relates to archiving records. Let's take a look at that together. So if I go up to the upper right-hand corner to the gear and I go to account and I go to timeframes, this is going to show me all the timeframes that I have set up in my AHA account. But most importantly, you're going to notice this checkbox on the far right side. Think of it in this way, right? As I look to move towards 2023 and those plans, I'm going to want to hide my 2022 plans, right? I want to focus on 2023. Once I check that box, that's going to hide those records. Now, for those who may be concerned, well, if I check the box, does that delete my records? No, again, it hides them. If you inadvertently archive something, you can always come back in and uncheck the box. But now if I go back to my goals section, after having checked that box, you can see that the only goals being displayed are those related to 2023. So as a quick recap of what we've talked about thus far, goals represent outcomes. Initiatives represent strategic themes or those largest bodies of work. Linking your records both within a workspace and throughout your hierarchy will enable you to build roadmaps and reports which depict your strategic alignment, which I know is so important to so many organizations. Austin, any insights into how we bring all these activities together when planning our roadmap here at AHA?
Yeah, Keith, so you mentioned that oftentimes, like when you were talking about the hierarchy, that you'll have sort of the company strategy laid out. We use a unique approach to taking that and kind of guiding the work that we're doing as we're working on our product strategy. Once those company goals are in place, we'll then take that and start with an overarching, what we call a product story, which really guides our next steps. So in our case, we have a portfolio of products, and so that helps us to keep this single focus across the products that can help us to create a cohesive story as we're brainstorming the potential initiatives that we could work on. We'll work together with across the PM and UX team to gather all the possible options of what we could potentially focus on and start broad with that brainstorming. We think of it like more is better at this point when we're getting started. We'll then work to whittle that down into the most important initiatives as we continue to kind of vet those plans, get feedback from other teams, and really focus in on what's most important.
Fantastic. Thank you for sharing that. So as we look to move ahead, I mean, once we have our strategic direction in place, it's time to focus on what we want to deliver to our customers. To this end, I found there's no better place to begin this effort than by looking at the ideas that we've already received from our customers, right? That's a wealth of information for us to leverage. Obviously, the best way to capture that kind of information is via ideas portals, right? We can use AHA to spin up an ideas portal like this. It's a great way of being able to allow our customers to submit ideas, vote on ideas, even comment ideas, right? It's great data for us to leverage. However, the challenge, which I'm sure many of you are aware, is that we have lots of ideas normally. And while that's a great problem to have, we want to be able to focus on certain areas of ideas, or at least winnow down the list to avoid having to go one by one, right? We want to find a more efficient approach. My suggestion to this end is to leverage your data and to identify those areas via reports or charts. Now, I specifically really like charts in this area. So this is a chart that I've put together that I would like to look at with you. This particular one is centered around two key elements: idea category and customer segment. That is, I want to understand the key areas of my product for which I'm seeing the most feedback, as well as those customer segments providing the feedback. I mean, in my experience, when I was a product manager, I found it was critically important to understand the feedback which offered value for everyone, all of my customers, But I also want to be very cognizant of feedback for key strategic customers as well. So let's take a look at how I've built this chart that we're looking at. If I click on Edit Data, you can see that I've built this using 4 different records in my record hierarchy. Idea votes, organization, and segment. I've created a stack column chart, which we saw just a second ago. The y-axis is based on count of idea votes. The x-axis is based off of the idea categories. And then, of course, lastly, my series name is based off of the segment. Now, I should mention that segments is a data element found in our Ideas Advanced product. Now, if you're interested in learning more about segments or Ideas Advanced, let us know. We can certainly help with scheduling a demo. If you're not using Ideas Advanced today, feel free to add a custom field or use some other field in AHA as a part of your chart. So let's take a closer look at the chart that I put together here. We can quickly tell from this chart which categories are the ones which warrant our focus, that being notifications, navigation, and of course, dashboard. Okay, that's really helpful, allowing us to winnow down the list to those areas which make the most sense. Now, once we've identified those target categories, it's time to think about prioritization. Now, why? Well, even though we've narrowed down our focus to some specific categories, in most cases, we're still going to have many more ideas than we could possibly deliver, right? So we want to go through a prioritization exercise to determine which of those ideas in these key categories or others that we want to focus on. Now, for this part of it, I'm going to jump into our ideas prioritization screen. Now, this is a newer feature in AHA. I'm not sure how many of you have tried this, but I think it's a fantastic tool. I really enjoy using this. It makes prioritization very, very easy. Now, I've already went into this screen, and I've already set my filters and filtered down my ideas based off of the criteria that I want, like categories. So this list we see here represents the ideas in those categories. Now, as we all know, one of the most important elements to managing a successful ideas portal is ensuring that you're reviewing those ideas that you received from your customer. And I encourage, as a part of that review process, completing the product value score. This becomes particularly relevant as we start to look to prioritize. Because while the prioritization screen will allow us to drag and drop to do a stack rank type process, that can be a bit time consuming. Instead, let's leverage this product value score for this purpose. In this case, I've got a product value score that's looking at impact and effort criteria. But the key element here is, if I'm using the product value score for my prioritization, I simply prioritize my list of ideas based off of that product value score in descending order. And it's like magic. Very quickly, I can determine which ideas represent the most meaningful value and where we should focus our attention. Now, a quick pro tip about the prioritization screen here. The prioritization screen works like many other reports in AHA, meaning I can create saved views, right? So that I can look through my priorities through different lenses. And I can also share this out. So if I wanted to export this out to a presentation or to a web page to share this information with others in the organization, I can also do that as well. Now, once we have a prioritized list of ideas, we want to start taking that next step of looking at these prioritized ideas and aligning these back to our strategy. Now, for this, I really love using our new whiteboards, right? It's a really great tool for going through these types of brainstorming exercises. So let's take a look at an example that I've put together, and I've created this in Notes. You can see I've got a whiteboard already in place called Strategy Brainstorming. In this case, you can see on the left that I've got areas for the ideas that I'm considering. You can see they're organized into the key categories we've identified. I've even added an area at the very bottom called Other. This is where my team can share other ideas that they feel are critically important for our evaluation as part of this process. On the right-hand side, I've got columns for my initiatives, as well as the goals. And we can very quickly move these items from left to right to understand which of these ideas align to our strategy and make sense for us to pursue further. Now, one other area that's really important here, or one other consideration, is that this whiteboard is collaborative, meaning multiple users can collaborate within the whiteboard at the same time. You can see all of those thumbs up from the team on those items that they're most excited about. And once we've settled on those ideas which align best to our strategy, those ideas that we want to invest in, we can promote those to features and begin our roadmap planning. So quick recap where we are right now. Improved your efficiency in regard to reviewing customer feedback by building charts or reports to glean key insights that will allow you to narrow down the ideas you'll focus on. Use the product value score to add rigor to your prioritization process, as well as to accelerate it. And then lastly, leverage your whiteboards to align your ideas to strategy, or really for any brainstorming. It's a really great tool. Austin, how do we manage the volume of feedback and potential ideas we could address when planning our roadmap here at AHA?
Yeah, it's a great question. We get lots of ideas, as I'm sure all of you do as well. I think so. Here, when we're working through this is the point where we'll start to break out the initiatives and help people start to conceptualize like what specific things we might do to accomplish each initiative. So we'll use a whiteboard, kind of how Keith has illustrated here. We'll paste idea links from the actual ideas that are over in the prioritization view. We'll paste those into the whiteboard, start organizing them into initiative buckets, and even adding in other like sticky notes of other ideas that are coming, internally or otherwise. Like with planning initiatives, we have these steps in the process where we're really diverging. So we're adding lots and lots and lots of ideas, all the possibilities. And then we'll have a step where we start converging and aligning around those top ideas.
Fantastic. Thanks for sharing that with us, Austin.
Sure.
So now that we've promoted our ideas that we're going to invest in, it's time to do some roadmap planning. So let's go to our features board. Now, the features board is that area dedicated to roadmap planning, right? We can see our release cadence here. We can see each of these columns represents a different release. These releases are containers for the features that we're committed to delivering. And remember, our roadmaps really should do more than just communicate when code is delivered. Rather, it should communicate when the release has been fully operationalized, right? And we have a complete product experience in place for our customers. So I encourage you to think of releases more as launches or go-to-markets. One of the other elements that's important on this screen is we can set a capacity for our releases. This is a situation where we can talk to our teams. We can discuss capacity that we may have available for a certain time frame or that we may want to allocate to a certain release. And then we can use that as part of our planning, one part of our planning process. So let's take a look at one of the features here that I have in my parking lot. One of the items that we're considering adding to our roadmap. Now, if we scroll down here, obviously one of the most important elements of the planning process is to work with our teams to get in a planning estimate, right? So in this case, I've worked with my engineering team and I've determined, the estimate for this feature, 300 hours, right? Now, for those of you using AHA Develop, two quick things to keep in mind. Number one, We can also use this same screen to identify the team who's going to work on it so that it appears in their backlog. Also, you'll notice this other estimate field here called the detailed estimate. So as the teams are working and they're refining these estimates later on, we can get these additional detailed estimate details to use as part of our plan. Now, I often tell everyone that one of the easiest things to do as a product manager is to add more to a release, right? Adding more to a roadmap is really easy to do, but we want to have some discipline to try to make sure that we're delivering a roadmap and a release that's feasible, right? We want to try to plan these items out in a way that it makes sense, that we feel confident that we can deliver on it. So in this case, since we have an estimate and we've established a capacity, if I drag my feature over into my release, you can notice this capacity bar fills. That's really important, right? Because that allows us to get a sense of, how much more we can add to this given release as a part of our planning process. And we can tell from this particular partner portal release, you can see the red portion of the bar. In this case, we can quickly identify where we've over allocated work to this particular release. And it may be a situation where we need to remove work from the release, all as a part of trying to make sure this release, our planning, is truly feasible. Now, a quick pro tip here for everyone. I'm sure many of you, like myself, have sat in on meetings where stakeholders have insisted on an increasing number of features to be delivered in a release. I find the features board to be a powerful visual in these situations. By pointing out how newly added features exceed our release capacity, we can have a meaningful conversation on how to modify our roadmap based on reality. So quick recap here. As a best practices, releases should align to launches or go-to-markets. Work with your engineering team to get estimates, especially those initial planning estimates for use in your roadmap planning. And then leverage that release capacity as a way of planning releases which are feasible. Austin, what insights can you share into how we lay things out on our roadmap here at AHA?
Yeah, definitely there are different approaches that you can take here. Where we go next in our process, in fact, it's the step in the process that we're working on literally this week, is to break those initiatives out into the epics and features, get all those added, and then put those into monthly releases on the features board. This gives us a high level view of what we plan to deliver and roughly when over the course of the next, say, 6 months in our case. From there, we'll be working with engineering to set those initial estimates that you mentioned. This gives us some added confidence that the plan that we've laid out is actually realistic and doable in terms of like the timeframes that we're targeting for getting things done. This, like, having it laid out in this monthly view also is really helpful for us from the perspective of our own, like, planning our own time. So when do we need to get to work on discovery and definition? How soon do we need to get design involved? And when do we need to get engineering involved to make sure that we're keeping the plan on track? Once we have that laid out and we have we get further into a particular feature, we have a more specific kind of detailed estimate of when we think we'll be able to deliver it, then we'll break those specific launches out into go-to-market related releases like what you have here. So we do a mix of both, where we start with that high level to get things laid out and to create that picture and help us to work on the plan, and then we'll go more specific once we know better dates that we can target.
Fantastic. Thanks for sharing that perspective. All right, so we've completed our roadmap planning in the features board. It's time to start thinking about putting together our roadmap now. So for those of you who may not be aware, AHA offers a number of different roadmaps. I mean, we have the starter roadmap, of course, which is more interactive in nature for those who are looking for more of a drag and drop experience to create a roadmap. We've got a portfolio roadmap for those who are managing a portfolio of products that's more centered around releases. We have a strategy roadmap that I find preferable for those more at an executive level or they're looking for a higher level roadmap, this is great because it's leveraging the initiative data. So it's more of a strategic theme-oriented roadmap. The features roadmap is great for the product team, simply because you're communicating when releases are scheduled and the contents of those releases. Now, the custom roadmap, I think, is the most versatile, right? You're going to have many more options rather, to build a roadmap in accordance with your needs. And this is what I want us to focus on as part of our conversation. Now, I've got a saved roadmap here for us to look at together, my 2023 roadmap. So if we take a look at this, you can see that in the timeline area of the roadmap, I have added all my features, and I can see the features, I can see the status of those features, I can see them grouped by initiatives, as well as the goals as well. So it's a very strategically aligned roadmap. And this really aligns very well to what we've been talking about thus far, right? When we talked earlier about building goals and initiatives and doing some roadmap planning with our features, we're kind of assembling all these pieces together on this custom roadmap. Let's take a look at how I've built this roadmap. If I go to settings and go to edit data, you can see in this case, I've got my record hierarchy set up so that the feature record is at the very top, right? So that's the primary record. The initiative and the goal records are the child records, which means I'm pulling the initiative and goal data from the feature record itself. On the right-hand side of this configuration, I've chosen bars as the type of the roadmap. My start and end dates are based on the feature start and due date. On the bars, I'm showing the feature name and the feature status. And then I'm grouping the bars by the goal name, the initiative name, and the initiative progress bar. Now, I would like to make one modification to my roadmap that we can look at together. If you recall earlier, we discussed how we can build goals and initiatives at each level of my hierarchy to show strategic alignment throughout my organization. In this case, I want to show the parent goal for the product goals on my roadmap. So to do this, I'm going to click on the add field. I'm going to type in roll up, and I'm going to choose roll up to goals. All right, so that adds it to the group bars by section, and I'm going to drag this up to the top as so. Then I'm going to save this. You can tell very quickly, now we've got a brand new column where I can see that the reason that I have this particular goal in place is because it is in service of this higher level goal. So now we're starting to see strategic alignment throughout the organization. Now, once we've done this, be sure that we save these changes or save your roadmap once you've created it so that you can reuse this over and over again. Now then, building the roadmap is a really important piece, but so is sharing the roadmap, right? We want to provide transparency to the rest of the organization to ensure that we're all on the same page together. There's a couple of different ways to do this that we're going to talk about together. Number one is if we click on export, you'll see an option for presentation. Now let's walk through that together. And I happen to have a presentation rather already built that we can look at. My 2023 roadmap presentation, right? And I've already built this out. I've got some slides related to my strategy and so forth there. But as part of this slide deck, I want to include this roadmap as well. So in this case, I'm going to add my roadmap from within the presentation. If I click add view and I go down to the custom roadmap, I choose my 2023 roadmap and I add this. The first thing you're going to want to do when you add an artifact like this to a slide is you're going to want to resize it, much like an image, right? Grab a corner, resize it so that it fits onto my slide. And I try to be mindful to make sure that it fits so that we're not having horizontal scrolling, right? So in this case, it fits nicely. If I select this roadmap, you can also see the update frequency on the right-hand side. Now, personally, I prefer the live update, right? I mean, I think I spent half my career updating PowerPoint slides as a product manager. So anything that I can do to avoid having to manually update a PowerPoint slide deck, I'm all about. So if I choose live update, then as I see data changes within AHA, those changes are automatically represented in the presentation. And of course, I can very quickly create a secure web page for this, and then create a web page that I can share out to the rest of the organization. Essentially give them a static link to say, hey, here is my presentation. You can look at this anytime you like to see the latest information. So it's a great way of sharing data in that way. But it's not the only way of providing this sort of detail. So if we go back to our 23 roadmap for a moment, one of the other options we have available to us is a dashboard. Everybody loves dashboards, right? So once again, I've already got a dashboard created, and I'm going to open this up. You can see that I've got a 2023 dashboard that I've already created, and I've got this big open area here, which would just be perfect for my roadmap. So in this case, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to my roadmap. I'm going to export this to a dashboard, and I'm going to choose an existing dashboard. In this case, my 2023 dashboard, and I'm going to add this to my dashboard. I go back to my dashboard. I'm going to refresh this dashboard. You can see that now I've got this new panel on my dashboard, and simply resizing it now so that it fits the way that I want. And just like that, I've got a dashboard that I can share with the team or with leadership to provide all the meaningful details that they want to see. Now, a quick pro tip here. Once we create a roadmap which works for your organization, set the standard for everybody. I can't encourage it enough to think about building standards for your usage of AHA. It's really important. One of the ways to do this when it comes to building roadmaps or reports is if we go to our roadmaps overview screen, we can add a folder, as I've done here, for templates. All right. And then when I save a new roadmap or report, or if I need to edit one that I've already created, I can go ahead and save that in that template folder. This will allow, anyone to access that particular format or template that you've created. They can do a save as to create their own version, but it makes sure that when you go into meetings together as groups, everyone's sharing the information in the same way. It really helps to encourage, a better understanding of what everyone's trying to accomplish. Now, a quick recap on this section. AHA offers many different types of roadmaps focused on different data and intended for different audiences based on their needs. We encourage you to build a roadmap which shows how the work to be delivered aligns to your strategy. Strategic alignment is key. And make the roadmap easy for everyone to access via presentations or dashboards. Now, with all that being said, Austin, any additional insights on where you go from here? I mean, once you have a roadmap in place, what comes next in our process here at AHA?
We get to work, right? Now, you mentioned sharing the roadmaps. That's the obvious starting point. Like I mentioned at the start, we have a special presentation that we do at our on-site meetings where we share the roadmap with the entire company. Once you've shared it, I think the really important part is to give teams a forum to ask questions and share feedback on what they've seen in the roadmap. We have the benefit that when we do these meetings, we're all together, where typically we're a fully remote company. We intentionally shared the roadmap presentation early in the week, which then drives some great discussions with PMs throughout the week. sometimes maybe we get cornered by one of our friends in CS with a list of questions, but we love it. It's always fun. If we're not together, and oftentimes we're not when we share a roadmap presentation like this, we will schedule time that we lovingly refer to as a roadmap ruckus, which is basically just a block of time where people can drop in and ask questions to the PMs for our individual products, just to really make sure that they understand the ins and the outs of the plan, what's on the plan, bring any questions that they have or things that they were hoping to see in the roadmap that maybe they didn't see. Then, beyond those initial meetings, obviously, as things get started and we're doing the work of delivering on the roadmap, we'll use the strategy roadmap regularly throughout the year to keep people really rallied around the plan and make sure that everybody remembers the strategy and remembers the initiatives that we're focused on as we get down into the details of delivery. We take the strategic roadmap and other similar reports and put those into product dashboards that we can share with the team. We do weekly product team meetings, and so we'll include the roadmap in the agenda notes for those meetings and cover them at a high level with that group. And then we also share the strategic roadmap monthly with the CS team when we get together. Again, the purpose being just to keep people rallied around the plan, keep people going in the right direction, which I think, to sum it all up is really what it's all about, right? It's the goal that we all have in mind when we're putting in the hard work that you've just talked through to get the visual like we see here. So on that note, I think it's time to take some Q&A. And I think Rose has maybe gathered a few questions from the chat for us to cover live.
Yeah, thank you, Austin. And thank you both for that run through of the many things that go into building a roadmap that you can do in AHA. We've been busy in the Q&A. I think we just hit 100 questions and we've been able to get to a ton of them in chatting, but I've picked out a few to answer with you guys live. So starting off with strategy, I think either of you could answer this one. But there were some questions about best practices for moving or archiving goals. So I'll read off what this person asked. So realistically, most goals and initiatives will slide at least once. So when they're considering archiving old timeframes, what's a best practice for reviewing which need to be archived and which need to be moved to new timeframes? And how does that work in AHA?
Probably the best way to go through that process is to consider whether or not you want to share real accomplishment with the rest of the organization as to whether or not you have completed or didn't complete a goal, right? Because many times it's as important to share those goals that we didn't complete versus showing the ones that we did. Right. So that's a consideration to determine whether or not you may want to just simply show that a goal has slid, or whether or not you may want your reporting to share that we didn't meet that objective, and therefore we're creating a new objective for the upcoming time frame. Austin, anything you want to add to that? No,
I think you nailed it. We do the same thing here. We start every planning cycle with a fresh set of goals, even if they're named the same as the goal in the previous half. We'll close that goal out as did not accomplish if we didn't accomplish it, just so that in our reporting it's like we're being realistic, and we can always look back and see how we did, and then again start fresh as we move forward.
Yeah, great. And here's another interesting one about how AHA approaches initiative planning. So this person said, Austin, you mentioned starting broad and then narrowing down to a final set of initiatives. And they're curious how exactly you use AHA in this process. Like, do you add all those initiatives and then the eliminated ones are discarded or archived within AHA? Or do you do that offline, maybe in a whiteboard, and then just the final ones are added to AHA?
Yeah, great question. We do not add them into AHA until we've decided on them. We try to keep the set of initiatives within AHA pretty clean and focused on what we know that we're going to do. we'll start the process, like you said, Rose, in a whiteboard. It gives us more of a free form space where we can brainstorm, we can put things down, and that history all exists, forever over in the notes section. But those initiatives that we decided against do not get created as records in AHA. So we know then that we're able to focus on the ones that did and the ones that are part of our strategy.
I think you would agree, Austin, right? I mean, one of the primary objectives is to make sure that you have real focus inside of AHA as it relates to goals and initiatives. That's really important.
Yeah, absolutely.
Great. Okay. Thank you. And then moving on from strategy, when you were showing that ideas prioritization view, we got some positive feedback and questions about that. One being, how do you access that? So Keith, if you want to just like quickly click back into it. So how do you access it? Can you export it, or like how would you recommend kind of sharing that view? And then do we have the same things for features? So packed a few questions in there, but I think just a quick refresher on this would be great.
Yeah, so the ideas prioritization screen can be found under ideas. If you don't see that here, you may need to adjust your navigation settings to see that. So for those who aren't familiar with that, just real quickly, we're talking about where you're going to go into navigation inside of your workspace settings. So just make sure that you have prioritization checked so that you're able to see it. In terms of being able to export this, you can certainly export this out into, a presentation, a web page. So you can generate a link to a web page showing this, if you will. You could email this anytime. You can export it as a ping if you want to include this like in a presentation or even a PDF as well. The other part of the question, I believe, was related to features. And yes, there is a corresponding features prioritization screen as well. So much as in the same way as we were talking about this for ideas, once you have kind of your body of ideas and you want to go through a prioritization exercise here, again, you can do, drag and drop stack ranking if you like. But once again, in my mind, I always encourage utilizing that product value score whenever possible so that we can quickly sort based off business value.
Great, thank you. And I think we have time for a couple more questions. So while we're looking at features, people were asking about best practices for using the product value scorecard. One specifically wanted to know, how do you recommend measuring impact objectively in the product value scorecard, and any examples of how we do that ourselves at AHA using the product value scorecard?
That's a great question. I can talk to that a bit.
Great.
So we actually recently revamped the default product value score equation to try to help here, and we've been using that internally, obviously as well. And what we try to do is kind of break down impact into different buckets, right? So what's the population of customers who need this or who have expressed interest in it? What's the need? So like, how big of a challenge is this for them day in and day out? How does this relate to our strategy? So I think those three things kind of all form the impact that we believe that a particular, in this case, we're looking at features. So in this case, like that a feature would have. We have then linked each of those different metrics back to a data point to make it as objective as possible. Like population, for example, we've automated that metric so that it's pulling from votes. So it takes the vote count of a feature, if that feature is related to an idea or a group of ideas, and then we've created buckets. So based on the number of votes. So 0 to 10 would, put it kind of lower, whereas, up over 100 votes would put it up into a higher score for the population metric. I think that varies. It varies for us product to product, because our more established product roadmaps would have a lot of votes on ideas, whereas some of our newer products have fewer votes. So I think that's very specific to each individual company and product. We've done the same for need, where we've tried to quantify the impact that either having a feature or not having a feature might have on somebody day to day. How often do they run into the challenge? Is it a showstopper? Is it something that they can work around? And we use that to score need. And then from a strategy perspective is, where would we rank this feature within our initiatives? So if it's the #1 feature, it gets the highest score. If it's the #2 feature, it gets the next highest score, and so on.
Great. Thank you, Austin, for going into some detail there. And I know we're running a few minutes over, so we are recording the questions too. So feel free to jump if you need to, except not you, Austin and Keith. But I just have one more to answer live that is such a good question and really gets to like core of using AHA. So this person asked, how do you track backwards that the actual work you've done meets the strategic goals you have set?
I can talk briefly to that. And I mean, I think that at a high level, we are a couple times a month getting together as a PM team and sharing progress updates on our initiatives. And so in those, we'll look at how that and what sort of progress we've made in terms of features delivered, for sure, but also how we've impacted the goals that we thought that the initiative would impact. So whether that's usage goals, where we're looking at product analytics data, or business goals, where we're looking at other data related to the business around engagement or trial conversions, things like that. So it's really, for us, it's more of an ongoing progress tracking and sharing process that helps us to stay on top of all that.
Yeah, that's great. And I know I shared the best practices article we have about linking your work to strategy in AHA, which I think is a widely read one and good one to reference. I'll pop it in the chat here. But yeah, anything else you guys wanted to add before we close out based on these questions? Great. I know we covered a lot. So thank you everyone for joining us today. It was great to have so many of you here. Thank you, Keith and Austin, and we will see you at the next live tutorial.
Take care, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.